Poverty is not just a lack of money, it's a presence of confusion. It is the consequence of small errors in judgment, repeated every day, unnoticed, defended, and passed on like family heirlooms. Most people don't stay poor because they're lazy. They stay poor because no one ever challenged their thinking. You can work hard all your life and still be broke. Why? Because effort without direction is wasted energy. Motion without clarity is chaos. You can run east looking for a sunset, and no matter how fast you run, you'll never find it. That's how most people live financially, trapped in motion but not in progress. They spend years making money but never take the time to understand it. They chase income but never build wealth. They treat money emotionally, spend when they're bored, borrow when they're scared, and avoid the one thing that could set them free: responsibility. And so they inherit struggle, normalize stress, and settle for survival. But here's the secret. Money is a servant. It will obey the one who commands it with wisdom, and it will abandon the one who abuses it with impulse. Today we're going to uncover why most people stay poor. Because the truth is, you are not sentenced to your circumstances. You are only sentenced to the philosophies you refuse to change. So, if you're ready to stop living by accident and start building by design, let's talk about how to break free and stay free. Not just in your bank account, but in your mind, your habits, and your destiny. Let me tell you something I've seen time and again. Most people don't stay poor because they lack talent or intelligence. They stay poor because they tolerate it. Not because they love it, nobody really does, but because they haven't set a standard high enough to pull them out of it. You see, a person will never rise above the standard they've set for themselves. Not goal standards. A goal is what you'd like to have. A standard is what you refuse to live without. That's the difference. You don't get wealthy by wishing, and you don't break free from poverty by accident. You do it by declaring, "From this day forward, I no longer tolerate this level of living." And you've got to say that with conviction, not to impress anyone, but to inform your own behavior. That decision alone begins a chain reaction, one that reshapes your habits, your focus, and your future. Let me take you back to a time early in my life. I was broke not just financially, but mentally. I was earning pennies, saving nothing, reading nothing, doing just enough to get by. Why? Because that was my standard. I hadn't drawn a line in the sand. I hadn't decided what I truly expected of myself. And you can't hit a target you haven't set. But one day, I got tired of my own excuses. I stopped pointing at the government, the economy, and my upbringing. I said to myself, enough is enough. I decided that reading daily was my new minimum, that I would never again spend more than I earned, that I would invest something, even $1 from every paycheck. That decision changed everything. See, the secret is that discipline follows identity. If you believe you're just average, you'll act like it. But if you set a standard that says, I am someone who saves at least 20% of what I earn, then your actions start aligning. Suddenly, it's not about whether you feel like saving, it's just who you are. And if you say, I don't spend emotionally, that becomes your operating system, not a temporary rule. That clarity begins to guide every financial choice. Wealth begins where tolerance ends. You show me someone who refuses to go into debt for instant gratification, and I'll show you someone on their way to wealth. You show me a person who won't let a day go by without reading, thinking, and sharpening their mind, and I'll show you a person who's building a fortune even if you can't see the dollars yet. The bank balance is just the fruit. The standard is the root. And let me tell you something else. Standards are contagious. You raise yours and your family starts noticing. Your children start mimicking your new habits. Your circle of influence starts shifting. Low standards repel progress. High standards attract growth. It's a law of nature. Water rises to its own level, so does wealth. Now, I'm not saying you need to have millionaire habits by tomorrow morning, but you've got to start somewhere. And the best place to begin is to write down what you will no longer tolerate and what you will absolutely commit to. Keep it simple. 3 to 5 financial and personal standards. Tape them to your wall. Review them daily. Adjust your behavior until those standards become your new normal. Don't just wish for a better life, expect one. And expect more from yourself first. Because once you raise your standard, everything else begins to rise with it. Most people don't fail financially because they're underpaid. They fail because they have no plan. You can give a person a bigger paycheck, but if they still have no direction, that money will disappear just as fast, maybe faster. That's the trap. People assume income solves everything. But income without intention is chaos. It's like pouring water into a leaky bucket. No matter how fast you pour, it never fills. And here's the real problem. Most people never sit down and tell their money what to do. They let their emotions tell it instead. One moment they feel stressed, so they buy something to escape. The next week a sale shows up and they treat themselves. By the end of the month, they're wondering where the money went. But money didn't leave, it followed instructions. It followed impulse. Money doesn't care if you're wise or foolish, it simply goes where you direct it. And if you don't give it direction, it disappears into things that don't matter and never come back. I remember the first time I created a written plan for my money. And I don't mean just knowing the rent was due. I mean sitting down at the end of the month, before the next began, and telling every dollar what job it had. Some dollars were sent to savings. Some were assigned to investing. Some were directed toward personal development books, courses, anything that could expand my thinking. And yes, some were left for fun and lifestyle. But the point was this: every dollar had a mission. Every dollar had a place to report for duty. And when you treat money like a team that works for you, that team begins to multiply. Without a plan, money gets emotional. It jumps from hand to hand, from store to store, never sticking around long enough to grow roots. But with a plan, even a simple one, money becomes a worker, a builder, a servant. And that's the shift. The rich don't worship money. They manage it, they tell it what to do, they put it to work. And the poor often serve money chasing it, worrying about it, reacting to it because they never put it under their authority. One of the best habits you can build is a monthly money meeting. Just you, a notebook, a calculator, and your income. Before the month begins, ask, what does my money need to accomplish this month? Make sure saving and investing come first, not last. Make sure something is set aside for learning, because growing your mind is always a good investment. Plan for expenses. Plan for generosity. And yes, plan for enjoyment. But plan it all before emotion ever gets a say. I've seen this transform lives. I've seen people earning average salaries become financially strong simply because they had a plan. I've seen others making six figures stay broke because they didn't. Money doesn't change your habits change your money. Don't leave your future to chance. Don't trust your memory. Don't assume your next raise will fix everything. What you need isn't more income, it's more clarity. You need a plan that respects your effort, honors your discipline, and rewards your future. Because when you give every dollar a purpose, every dollar begins to work for you. And when money works for you, you don't have to work for it forever. It's amazing how many people lose money, feel the sting for a day or two, and then just move on as if nothing happened. They say things like, well, that was unlucky, or I guess that just wasn't for me. And yet, just a few months later, they find themselves in the same situation, a different version of the same mistake. Why? Because they never stopped to study what went wrong. They didn't treat the money mistake as a lesson. And when you don't learn the lesson, you're guaranteed to repeat the class. The wealthy think differently. When they fail financially, and believe me, they do, they pause, they step back, they analyze. They don't just feel the pain and rush to numb it with distraction or blame. They pull out the notebook, so to speak, and they begin writing. They ask, what was the decision? What information did I ignore? What emotion drove this move? What would I do differently next time? This kind of thinking doesn't just save money, it compounds wisdom. And wisdom is more profitable than gold. I remember a time early in my journey when I lost a few $1,000s in a business partnership that went south. At the time, that money was significant. It hurt. But instead of blaming the other party, instead of complaining to my friends, I sat down and wrote, I wrote the timeline, the decision points, the red flags I ignored. I realized I had gotten greedy. I hadn't done proper due diligence. I had been too eager to impress and not focused enough on protecting. That entry in my personal money mistake journal became one of the most valuable lessons I've ever learned. Not because I got my money back, I didn't, but because I never made that kind of mistake again. See, most people try to forget their financial failures because they associate them with shame. But failure isn't something to hide, it's something to study. If you lost money, you paid tuition. Don't walk away from the class before learning. And if you didn't take notes, you wasted the fee. Every failed investment, every bad purchase, every missed opportunity, they're not just setbacks, they're study material. That's why I recommend keeping what I call a money mistake journal. It doesn't have to be fancy. Just a notebook or a digital file where you write down every money decision that didn't go as planned. Not to beat yourself up, not to dwell in the past, but to turn pain into principle. Over time, this journal becomes a personal guidebook, a trail of lessons you can revisit anytime you're tempted to act impulsively or forget what experience taught you. You'll find patterns. Maybe you take risks when you're emotionally charged. Maybe you avoid research when you think time is short. Maybe you overspend when you're stressed. These insights are powerful because they're yours. They're not from a book, they're from your life. And because they're personal, they stick. Remember, the wealthy are not people who never make mistakes. They're people who learn so well from each one that they stop making the same ones twice. That's the real secret. Wealth isn't just built by success, it's built by mastering failure. Treat every mistake like a class you paid for. And if you do that long enough, your financial failures will one day be the foundation of your financial freedom. I used to ask people, how much did you spend last week? You'd be amazed how many blank stares I got in return. They'd laugh, shrug, or say, too much. That response always told me one thing. They weren't in control, not because they were lazy or unintelligent, but because they were disconnected. And money, like anything else in life, doesn't respond well to neglect. It responds to attention. Let me tell you something important. If you don't know where your money went last month, don't be surprised when it doesn't show up next month. Most people think their problem is income, but in truth, their problem is clarity. They don't track. They don't measure. And if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. That's not just a financial truth, that's a life truth. Here's what I learned early in my journey. Every dollar has a voice. And if you don't listen to what it's saying, it walks right out the door without a goodbye. The wealthy listen. The wealthy know what they earned, what they kept, where it went, and how much came back. It's not magic, it's math. It's measurement. It's attention to detail. I remember the day I started tracking every dollar. Not with fancy software, just pen and paper. I wrote down everything I spent, coffee, groceries, gas, everything. I even tracked what I saved and what I invested. At first it was frustrating. I didn't like what I saw. But soon that discomfort turned into discipline. I started asking better questions. Why did I buy this? Was this worth it? Quote, what pattern do I keep repeating? You see, when you track, you expose the truth, and the truth leads to transformation. The problem is ignorance feels easier than accountability. If you don't track, you don't have to face your habits. You don't have to see how much you spent on things that didn't matter. But ignorance has a cost, and that cost is your future. The truth is, most people aren't poor because of how much they earn. They're poor because of how little they monitor. So, what's the solution? Simple. Track every dollar for 30 days. That's it. Every single one. If it leaves your hand or your account, write it down. Use a notebook, a spreadsheet, or one of the many budgeting apps out there. But track it, because once you see the pattern, you can change the pattern. And once you control the flow, you can redirect the flow into savings, into investments, into the life you want. Here's what will happen. At first, you'll be shocked by how much is leaking through cracks you didn't even notice. Then you'll get frustrated with your past decisions. But soon, clarity will turn into confidence. You'll see where your money is going. You'll tell it where to go. And eventually, you'll make more, not just because you earn more, but because you manage more. Money is a mirror. It reflects how you think, what you value, and how you behave. If you want to change the reflection, you have to change the habits. And the habit of tracking is the foundation of financial awareness. So the next time you feel like wealth is out of reach, don't look at your paycheck. Look at your paper. Start with the truth. Because clarity breeds control, and control is the foundation of wealth. One of the biggest traps that keeps people stuck in poverty is their relationship with time. They mistake busyness for progress, confusing endless activity with real productivity. It's easy to fill our days with scrolling social media, engaging in idle gossip, or working on tasks that don't actually move the needle toward our goals. But here's the truth. Time wasted is opportunity lost. And opportunities missed are dreams delayed. Most people never stop to calculate the true value of their hour. They think of time as an endless commodity, something that will always be there tomorrow. But the reality is that time is the one resource that, once spent, can never be regained. A poor mindset fails to see this and therefore fritters away its most valuable asset on distractions and trivialities. Wealthy thinkers, on the other hand, treat each hour as a dollar bill, asking themselves, how can I invest this hour to multiply its value? I remember early in my career, I would often find myself busy all day, yet when night came, I had nothing to show for it. I was working hard, but not working smart. Then I realized I had to audit my time, really track what I was doing in each hour of the day. What I discovered was eye-opening. Hours spent on mindless entertainment, complaining, or simply avoiding hard tasks were eating away my progress. It was a wake-up call. That's when I started replacing just 1 hour a day of passive consumption with active creation. Instead of scrolling through news feeds or chatting about the latest gossip, I dedicated that hour to reading books that grew my knowledge, practicing a skill that could generate income, or planning the next steps in my business. Slowly, this shift in how I used time compounded. The more I invested my hours wisely, the more my results multiplied. The key is to conduct a thorough weekly audit of your time. Write down everything you do from the moment you wake up to the time you go to bed. Be honest even about the small moments that seem insignificant. Then look at that list and ask yourself, which activities are producing results? Which are merely filling time? Which bring me closer to financial freedom? And which are holding me back? Once you see clearly how your time is being spent, start making intentional swaps. For example, if you find you spend 2 hours watching television daily, try replacing just 30 minutes of that with learning a new skill or working on a side project. If you spend a lot of time complaining or gossiping, choose instead to listen to motivational speeches, podcasts on investing, or read biographies of successful people. These small adjustments accumulate into a powerful change. Remember, time is capital. Just like money, it must be managed and invested wisely. The rich understand that to build wealth, you must not only earn money, but earn time. Time compounding in the form of learning, creating, and growing will bring you wealth far beyond the limits of your paycheck. So the question is not, how much time do I have? But rather, how am I using the time I have? Because wasted hours mean wasted potential, and wasted potential means staying trapped in poverty. If you want to break free, start valuing your time as the precious resource it truly is. That shift alone will change the trajectory of your life. Vision is the starting point of all great achievements. Without a clear picture of where you want to go, it's easy to wander aimlessly through life, hoping that somehow success will find you. But hope without direction is like a ship without a rudder adrift and vulnerable to every storm. Most people don't realize that the lack of a clear financial vision is one of the biggest reasons they stay stuck in poverty. When I first began on my journey, I didn't have a detailed vision of what I wanted to achieve financially. I had vague desires to make more money and be successful, But those goals were shadows, not solid targets. It wasn't until I took the time to write down specific financial goals that things began to shift. Writing forces clarity. It takes what's swirling in your mind and makes it concrete. Suddenly, the abstract becomes tangible. Instead of saying, "I want more money," you write, "I will earn $100,000 this year through my business and investments." The act of putting your vision on paper turns passive wishing into active planning. It creates a roadmap, a guide to follow when decisions come your way. It's a compass that helps you say no to distractions and yes to opportunities that align with your goals. When you write down your financial vision, you're making a commitment to yourself and your future. You're telling your subconscious mind, "This is where I'm going and I'm serious about it." Think about it this way. Every successful person you admire has a clear vision. They didn't stumble into wealth by accident. They defined exactly what they wanted and then took focused, consistent steps to get there. Clarity fuels motivation. Without it, you'll feel lost, overwhelmed, and prone to giving up at the first sign of difficulty. Here's a practical step. Take 30 minutes today and write out your financial vision for the next year. Be as detailed as possible. Include your income goals, how much you want to save, what investments you plan to make, and the lifestyle changes you're willing to commit to. Don't settle for vague statements. Pinpoint exact numbers and dates. Once your vision is clear on paper, break it down into monthly and weekly milestones. This makes the big goal manageable and allows you to track your progress. Adjust as necessary, but always keep your eyes on the prize. I remember when I started doing this, myself, it transformed how I approached my work and my money. With a written plan, I stopped wandering and started moving with purpose. My actions became deliberate, and my results began to show. The vision became a magnet, attracting the right opportunities and connections. If you want to break free from poverty, stop wandering, define your destination clearly, write your vision, revisit it daily, and let it be the fuel that drives your daily choices. Because without clarity, you'll keep spinning your wheels, and with clarity, you'll build the life you desire. There's an old saying that knowledge is power, and when it comes to money, this couldn't be truer. Yet, so many people avoid learning about finances because it feels complicated, intimidating, or even shameful. They think money is a mystery meant only for the experts, or they convince themselves it's too late to learn. But the truth is, avoiding financial education is one of the fastest ways to stay poor. I've seen it time and again, people trapped in financial struggle because they never took the time to understand how money works. They live paycheck to paycheck, unsure how to budget, save, or invest because they never bothered to learn. Sometimes it's fear, the fear of facing their situation honestly. Other times, it's shame. Perhaps they feel embarrassed about past mistakes or believe they don't deserve wealth. And sometimes it's just low self-worth, convincing themselves they'll never be financially successful. But here's the reality. Money isn't complicated when you break it down into simple principles. It's just a tool, and like any tool, it requires some skill to use effectively. The wealthy understand this and commit themselves to continual learning about money. They read books, listen to mentors, and study successful people's habits. This learning builds their confidence and enables them to make smarter decisions. One practical step you can take today is to commit to reading one personal finance book this month. Choose something that's straightforward and actionable. There are many great books that explain money in a way anyone can understand. When you read, take notes and think about how you can apply what you learn immediately. Learning about money isn't a one-time event, it's a lifelong habit. The financial world changes, opportunities arise, and challenges evolve. The richer your financial education, the better you'll be at navigating these changes. Remember, you will never outperform your financial education. If you want to break free from poverty, start educating yourself now. When I began investing in my own financial education, it transformed everything. It was like a light turning on in a dark room. Suddenly, I understood concepts that used to confuse me. I stopped fearing money and started managing it with purpose. This shift in mindset was the foundation of my financial growth. So, don't let fear, shame, or doubt stop you. Take control of your financial future by becoming a lifelong learner. Read that book, attend that seminar, listen to that podcast, whatever it takes. The more you know, the more your money will work for you instead of the other way around. Most people fall into the trap of spending first and saving whatever's left, if anything at all. It's a habit driven by the lure of instant gratification. When that paycheck arrives, the first thought is often, what can I enjoy today? A dinner out, a new gadget, or some small luxury. Saving feels like a sacrifice, something to do after the fun. But this mindset is a powerful enemy of wealth. Here's the truth. If you wait to save until after you've spent, chances are there won't be anything left to save. You're building your financial house on sand. The wealthy do exactly the opposite. They treat saving like a non-negotiable bill paid immediately every time. They pay themselves first. Think of saving like a monthly rent you owe your future self. If you never pay that rent, your future self lives in poverty. But if you pay it faithfully, month after month, you build a foundation that will support your financial freedom. One practical step to make this happen is to automate your savings. When your paycheck arrives, have 10 to 20% automatically transferred into a savings or investment account before it ever touches your spending accounts. This removes the emotional decision-making and forces discipline. It's not optional, it's the first expense you cover. I remember early in my journey when I struggled to save because the money was just too tempting to spend. Then I changed my approach and set up automatic transfers. Suddenly, saving wasn't about willpower anymore. It was just what happened. This simple shift made all the difference. By prioritizing saving, you're choosing growth over gratification. It's hard in a culture that rewards immediate pleasure, but wealth rewards patience. The sooner you make saving a habit, the sooner your money begins to work for you. So, flip the script. Pay yourself first and watch your financial future change course. One of the biggest mistakes I've seen people make on their journey to wealth is confusing assets with liabilities. It's a subtle trap that keeps many stuck in a cycle of poverty simply because they never learned the fundamental difference. They spend their money on things that look good and feel good in the moment: cars, clothes, gadgets. But these things don't build wealth. Instead, they drain it. Let me be clear. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out. It's not just about what you own, but about how those things affect your cash flow. That new car might be a status symbol, but it's not an asset if it costs you monthly payments, insurance, maintenance, and depreciation. That designer outfit might feel like a win today, but it doesn't create income or increase in value. Many people live in a world where appearances matter more than substance. They want to look rich without actually becoming rich. The problem is, this mindset creates a financial illusion that hides the truth. They're deeper in debt, not wealth. True wealth isn't about how much you spend, but how much you keep and grow. The solution is education and focus. Study the basics of financial literacy until it becomes second nature. Assets put money into your pocket, liabilities take money out. Begin to shift your purchases from liabilities to assets. That might mean investing in stocks, real estate, a small business, or other vehicles that generate income or appreciate over time. I remember early in my career, I wanted to impress by buying a fancy car. But once I understood the difference between assets and liabilities, I sold that car and invested the money instead. That decision changed my entire financial trajectory. It wasn't glamorous at the time, but it was smart. Building wealth means buying income-producing assets. It means prioritizing investments over immediate gratification. When you focus on growing your assets, you're planting seeds that will bear fruit for years to come. This is how the wealthy build their fortunes, not by spending what they earn, but by letting their money work for them. If you want to break free from poverty, start today by learning to spot assets versus liabilities. Change your buying habits accordingly. Your future self will thank you. Many people underestimate the power of small beginnings. They look at wealth and success as something grand and immediate, forgetting that every great journey starts with a single step. They want the big wins right now and get discouraged when those wins don't appear overnight. This impatience often leads to giving up before they've truly begun. The truth is, wealth is built one small decision at a time. It's not about sudden windfalls or luck. It's about consistent daily habits that accumulate into something powerful. The first dollar saved, the first investment made, the first side hustle started. These are the seedlings from which financial forests grow. I've seen countless people dismiss small earnings or hesitate to save because it feels insignificant. Why bother with just $10, they say. But that $10 is more than money. It's a symbol of commitment, a demonstration that you're serious about your financial future. Respecting small beginnings means valuing every dollar and every step toward growth. In my early years, I started with very little. I wasn't born into wealth, and I didn't have a fortune waiting for me. What I had was a willingness to start where I was and use whatever I had wisely. I saved small amounts, read a few pages of a good book every day, and worked steadily. Over time, those small habits compounded, creating opportunities and resources I never imagined. The key is to protect and nurture those beginnings. Plant your seeds carefully and give them time to grow. Don't be swayed by the noise of wanting fast results or comparing yourself to others who seem to have jumped ahead. Wealth, like any meaningful success, demands patience and respect for the process. So, start by saving your first $10, making your first sale, or setting aside time for learning. Celebrate these small victories because they are the foundation of your future prosperity. Remember, forests don't grow overnight, but every mighty tree began as a tiny seed. Respect your small beginnings. They are your greatest asset. One of the most powerful shifts a person can make on the road to wealth is moving from victim thinking to ownership thinking. It's easy to blame the economy, your upbringing, or circumstances beyond your control when things aren't going well. The problem with this mindset is that blame steals your power. When you say it's not my fault, you're also saying it's not my responsibility. And without responsibility, there is no control, no action, no change. I've met many people who felt stuck, who saw themselves as victims of the world around them. They complained about taxes, bad luck, or missed opportunities, but they never looked inward to see what they could control or improve. That mindset traps you in a cycle of frustration and poverty because it robs you of your most valuable asset, your ability to choose. Taking full responsibility is not about blaming yourself for everything. It's about saying, even if the circumstances are not my fault, I am responsible for what I do next. That simple phrase shifts your mindset from powerless to powerful. It frees you to act, to learn, to grow. It ignites the engine of progress. When I was starting out, life threw challenges my way. I didn't always have the perfect conditions or the smoothest path. But I learned early on that blaming outside forces didn't help me build a better future. Taking ownership meant asking, what can I do right now to change my situation? That question led me to invest in myself, seek better mentors, and keep moving forward, despite obstacles. Ownership thinking opens the door to solutions. Instead of waiting for the world to change, you begin changing your habits, your knowledge, and your actions. You become proactive, not reactive. You stop being a passenger in your life and become the driver. If you want to break free from poverty, start by owning your story fully. Don't let blame chain you to the past. Say, it's my responsibility. And watch how that declaration unleashes your potential to build wealth and a better future. This is where true freedom begins. Most people want the rewards of wealth without paying the price. They want to drive a luxury car, live in a beautiful home, and enjoy financial freedom, but they balk when it comes to the discipline and sacrifice required to get there. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of false belief that shortcuts or quick fixes will carry them to prosperity. The truth is, there are no shortcuts. Wealth is earned through sacrifice, persistence, and focused effort. Sacrifice isn't a punishment, it's an investment in your future. It means saying no to instant gratification today so you can say yes to greater opportunities tomorrow. When I look back on my own journey, I recall the many times I chose to forgo small pleasures in favor of investing in my education, working longer hours, or saving money instead of spending it frivolously. Those decisions were not always easy, but they built the foundation for lasting success. The season of sacrifice can be uncomfortable. It might mean budgeting tightly, working extra hours, or delaying certain desires. But discipline in this season creates freedom in the next. Think of it as planting seeds. You don't see immediate results, but with patience and care, those seeds grow into strong trees that bear fruit for years. Many fail because they underestimate this process. They expect wealth to come without giving up anything meaningful. And when it doesn't, they become discouraged and quit. But the wealthy understand that sacrifice is a temporary phase with permanent benefits. It's the bridge between dreaming and doing, between hope and achievement. To embrace sacrifice, start by identifying what you must say no to today. It might be unnecessary spending, distractions, or unproductive habits. Replace those with activities and choices that move you closer to your financial goals, whether it's learning a new skill, saving more, or building your business. The clearer your purpose, the easier it becomes to endure the temporary discomfort. Remember, sacrifice is not deprivation, it's a strategic decision to build a future that many only dream about. When you accept this truth and commit to the process, you break free from the trap of wanting without working. Wealth isn't handed out. It's earned through consistent sacrifice and disciplined action. Embrace that season, and you'll be ready to welcome the prosperity it creates. Too many people find themselves stuck, waiting for the perfect moment to begin their journey to financial freedom. They look for signs, for permission from others, or for circumstances to align perfectly before taking action. The truth is, waiting is one of the greatest thieves of opportunity. Life will rarely hand you a flawless launch pad, the right time, the perfect support system, or a clear, unshakable path. Waiting for these conditions is waiting for life to pass you by. I've seen countless individuals delay their dreams because of fear of failure, fear of judgment, or fear of making mistakes. But hesitation is the enemy of progress. The rich understand that wealth respects motion, not hesitation. It doesn't reward the cautious who stay frozen, but those who start even imperfectly and adjust as they go. The journey to prosperity begins with a single step, no matter how small or uncertain. Giving yourself permission to begin is a powerful act. You don't need to have all the answers or every resource lined up. You just need to start. I remember early in my own life when I had more questions than solutions, more doubts than confidence. I didn't wait for anyone to say yes or give me a green light. I decided to act, to learn along the way, and to persist. Each small move built momentum and opened doors I hadn't even imagined. Starting small is not a sign of weakness, it's a strategic choice. It's better to begin with a modest step than to remain paralyzed by the quest for perfection. Think of wealth building like planting a garden. You don't plant the entire field at once. You plant one seed, nurture it, then plant another. Action creates clarity, and clarity fuels further action. Remember, nobody's journey starts with total confidence or a flawless plan. It starts with the courage to move forward despite fear and uncertainty. So don't wait for permission. Give yourself the green light today. Begin now, no matter how small the step, because momentum is the currency that turns dreams into reality. Wealth rewards those who move, not those who pause. As we come to the close of this conversation, I want you to reflect deeply on what has been shared, not as mere words, but as a blueprint for transformation. The journey from poverty to prosperity is not a mystery or a stroke of luck. It is a series of deliberate choices, disciplined habits, and unwavering commitment to your vision. You've learned that wealth does not come to those who wish for it passively. It comes to those who take purposeful action, who understand the value of sacrifice, and who refuse to be held captive by fear or circumstance. Remember, the first step is always internal. Before your bank account changes, your mindset must. The poor think in limits, the wealthy think in possibilities. It's the difference between reacting to life and designing life. You are not a victim of your environment or your past. You have the power to rewrite your story by changing the way you think about money, success, and failure. You've seen how discipline forms the bridge between where you are now and where you want to be. Dreams alone will not sustain you. Consistent, focused effort will. It's the daily small wins, the steady investment of time, money, and energy into your growth that compounds into lasting wealth. The wealthy don't gamble on chance. They build systems that protect and grow their resources. They pay themselves first, and they surround themselves with wisdom. One of the most important lessons is this: clarity leads to action, and action leads to results. If your goals are vague, your progress will be too. Define your financial vision with precision. Write it down. Map out your income targets, your savings plan, your investments. When your purpose is clear, your how becomes obvious. Let that clarity be your compass, guiding every decision you make. Now, here is your call to action. Don't wait for the perfect time or for all conditions to align. Begin where you are with what you have. Take that first step today, whether it's creating a budget, setting up an automatic savings plan, or educating yourself on investments. Take control of your money instead of letting it control you. Break free from the cycle of broke thinking by committing to learn, grow, and apply these principles consistently. Surround yourself with people who inspire growth and hold you accountable. Seek mentors who have traveled the path before you. Build your habits on the foundation of proven principles and refuse to settle for less than your potential. The road to prosperity is a marathon, not a sprint. Be patient but persistent. Embrace the seasons of sacrifice, knowing that they lead to freedom. Trust in the process, stay disciplined, and watch as your life begins to transform in ways you never thought possible. Your legacy begins today with the decisions you make right now. Choose to think differently, act purposefully, and build wealth that lasts not just for you, but for generations to come. The power is in your hands. Use it wisely.